So hang on. I just saw a couple of people. I just want to see. There was somebody from Dublin, because that's always kind of fun. Ooh, somebody from
Wow.
Portugal. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Dublin and Portugal. How
And
lovely.
England.
Oh, so will that be
And
in London or where in England?
I forget where she is. Maybe she will tell us. Let's see. France,
Wow.
California,
Wow.
UK. Yeah. Let's see. Let us know where you're coming in from. That's always fun. I'm going back up in. Let's see. Okay, hold on. Come on. Come on, scrolling. Let me scroll. Why won't it not let me scroll? Canada,
Wow.
Texas. Uh, yeah, I can't scroll anymore. Okay, well, they're
Isn't
coming
it
in.
isn't it awesome that we have this technology and we have this circle of
I
friends
know.
around the world? I mean, to me, that just makes my heart sing
Uh,
because think about it. When I was a kid, there was no such thing as a telephone in our house, and the school where we had one telephone, and none of us kids could figure out they would be able to call because they had one phone. So, and here we are talking to each other around the world.
I
Oh,
know.
and Katie,
I just,
you started the whole thing. So
well,
thank you, thank you, thank you.
it has been one of the greatest pleasures of my life to get you around the world in the way that we have. So thank you. Um, we have someone from Belgium, and we have somebody that said the land of enchantment.
Wow.
That's where they're from. Pakistan,
Yeah.
Peru.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Turkey. Weren't you talking to somebody from Turkey yesterday, last
Yeah.
week?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
was that a podcast or what was that?
It was a podcast. Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I think
So amazing.
I think that the book is my book has been translated into Turkish, whatever that language is.
And you were also, so you had shared with me, but I don't know that we shared it with all of our people here, was that you were in the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, that's true.
And
They did
they did a great big article
they
on
did a
you.
nice
Yeah.
job. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
They have a picture. This is kind of fun. They have a picture of me in a kundi. Now, in that picture, it's a basket, and I'm being carried on the back of a coolie up the mountain. So we would going from Rurki up to Landauer, and I was about 3 years old, and it was very, very hard for me to sit still in any time. It still is. I'm a mover. I have to move. And my sister and my brother was no problem. He told them to sit still. They sat still. But my dad came up to me with his dark eyes and he looked at me real seriously. And he said, "Now, Gladdy, you have to sit still. The coolie's carrying you on his back up this path. And if you wiggle, you'll make him stumble and he'll go over the cud and he'll be dead and you will be dead." Oh man, in this picture, I'm sitting in the kundi and I'm holding on to the sides of it and my eyes are as big as saucers. And I'm
wow.
telling you, I sat still.
That is
He had
so
to
funny.
scare me enough to make me sit still because it would have been tragic because these are just little cow
Right.
paths that we were going up.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. Um So Linda from the UK just said, congratulations, Dr. Gladys. You are such a beautiful, amazing woman, loved by many. Be very proud of all that you have
Oh,
accomplished to help us all over the world.
thank you. But let
Agreed.
me tell the lady from London what happened when I might as well add these because I think they help tie us together
Well,
as
and people love
real.
your stories.
Okay,
They love hearing about your stories.
my freshman year in college, I was 16, and I
Wait,
had
your
just come over from
freshman year of college, you were 16?
16.
Wow, so you started early?
I don't know.
Yeah, that
I
seems
st-
super young.
well, whatever.
Okay.
So anyway, I was young. Okay, that
That
we
we know.
approve. Yeah, we know that. So anyway, walk into chapel, the first chapel and the whole cog, the whole student body stands up, and they start singing "My Country 'Tis of Thee," but I start out with "God Save My Gracious King," and I'm singing, and all of a sudden I realize I'm singing something different, and the guy standing in front of me turns around and he's laughing. He says, "I did the same thing. My parents are missionaries in Egypt." Because you see, we were American citizens, but we were also British subjects.
Wow.
But
Wow. All the stories.
oh
Yeah.
boy.
I just want to say thank you to Linda. She was saying she likes love all my artwork in the background, so thank you. It's been fun. Oh, this weekend I had my first online art medicine retreat.
Wow.
And
How was that?
so it was great. I mean, the tech part I wasn't I wasn't perfect at because I was zooming from my laptop and then I was using my phone as another participant in the Zoom, and it was facing my artwork so that as I was describing what I was suggesting that they do, they could see me doing it on my artwork. But that didn't really work the way what I saw was what I wanted to see, but it wasn't how they saw it. So
Oh,
it was fine. But we had there were 12 people that signed up, and it was great. It was a 3-hour deep dive into painting. It was really, really amazing. So I,
isn't that interesting how our hands and minds can bring together some concepts that are almost impossible to put into words?
mm,
Because when you start the painting, the drawing, whatever, your hands have to be coordinated with what your mind is putting out, and as you bring that together, the whole process is a loving process.
yes, and I think the interesting thing for me was, I have taught 2 live retreats, and so to now have it be virtual was just a very different experience because you're not getting exactly the same kind of energy, although you're still creating the field of energy that we're all connected, just like you and I do on with this.
Right, right.
Um, so yeah, it was great, and there was one woman that signed up from here this from this group, so that
Oh,
was really fun. She's from Toronto.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so that was fun. Let's see, let me see, we've got a few comments. Let's see what exactly is holistic medicine. Well, what I was
Well,
talking about was art medicine, but you, the grandmother of holistic medicine, why don't you answer that?
well, it's actually a good question, because when we started the American Holistic Medical Association and named it that, it took us 2 years to figure out how to spell it, because the word that we were looking for was health, healing, and holy. as for holistic, you know, and it was, but we finally put it together so that we realized what we were talking about, that we had to include that essence of who we really are in order to get the real meaning of holistic medicine. And uh, so we did that. We worked at it. We in our uh, introductions and all of that kind of thing. And those of us who were working with that understood that the spirit of the whole process of healing, which is love, which is the really basic healing aspect of all healing, had to be put it into it in some way. So that was an interesting thing. And then must have been about 2012 or something like that. I was in the grocery store up here, and I heard the hardware store down the street announcing itself as a holistic hardware store. And I stopped my cart and I said, well, there you have it, you know. They uh, they know the word, they don't know what it's all about. So from then on, I kind of changed, well, we started talking, adding to holistic, the whole concept of living medicine, because that brought a whole new dimension of what this kind of healing that we're working with and talking about is about. It's about life and love.
And bringing and using all of life
Right.
as a form of medicine and as a form of healing, right?
Yes, and out of that evolved what we came up with as the 5 L's, because we, in our Foundation for Living Medicine, we were trying to have other groups join us, and we said, you know, we're an umbrella that covers a lot of these other concepts. And then we finally realized that we had to stop talking about an umbrella. An umbrella stops the light and the rain and all of that. So our metaphor was wrong, and we shifted it to roots. So that's when we came up with the concept, the 5 L's, that are like roots in the earth. Nobody sees them. You know, you don't know which, you can pick up a bunch of dirt and have roots in it. You have no idea what the roots are, but the roots know what they are, and they know what they have to do. And they're like the very essence of what feeds the whole thing. So then we decided that the concept of living medicine was what we were really working with at that point. But holistic medicine actually is the essence of what it is and where it starts and so on.
Can I ask a question about, so when did the term integrative medicine come into play, and how is that an offshoot of your original tenets of holistic
Well,
medicine?
it was because we were sort of, when we first started, uh, we were strange people, you know? I mean, I don't remember what the names were that we were called, but we had very not so complimentary names. And I had to appear before our Maricopa County Medical Board repeatedly because of what I was saying. And there's so many stories. Anyway, uh, one of the things that the medical community absolutely did not like them was the concept of castor oil packs. I don't know why that was just I, practically every time I had appear before the County Medical Association, it was And now you're taught use old rags with castor oil. I said, no, no, no. You know, it was anyway. It was an interesting time, and but there were other people who were wanting to be part of the whole thing, but they didn't want to quite get tangled up with all of this that we were going through. So the word integrative brought them in. And when we brought them in, it became more acceptable.
Okay. And somebody's asking, what is the difference between naturopathic and holistic?
Well, naturopathic is like chiropractic and so on. It's a specific discipline that has its own curriculum and its own following. So, osteopathic, eh, osteopathy was not
Right.
accepted when my parents became osteopaths. But you know, it's been a process of learning, and now osteopathy is on a par with the MDs and so on and so on and so on. But naturopathic medicine just brought these concepts back into a more acceptable uh, medical world.
Well, and I think one main difference is that naturopaths cannot prescribe medicine.
Yeah, yeah,
They're using herbs and supplements and
right,
nutrition and all of the other things.
right, right.
Um, okay, so we are going down this rabbit hole. Somebody is now asking, how do you approach health and wellness from a perspective, from a from a holistic perspective? How do you
Wow.
approach health and wellness from a holistic perspective?
Let me tell you about my what I call the five L's, because I think we have. I that's a good question because I was took me many years to try and answer that kind of a question until I finally, because I needed a
Mm-hmm.
structure, some kind of uh, conceptual structure that would help to do it. So I came up with the five L's. The first two are life and love. The very essence of all healing, true healing, is life and love. They go together. It's like a pregnancy. You know, the mother is pregnant with the baby is growing within that mother. They are one unit. The life, her love allows that baby to grow. So the first two are life and love, but love I mean, life cannot manifest until the baby takes its first breath. And then he or she becomes an entity. The, as long as they're one unit in a pregnancy, the mother is femifesting and growing that baby within herself, but the baby, the entity, becomes a unit as it takes its own breath and manifests who it is and who he is, she is, to come and live this
Mm-hmm.
life. So there, you know, it's like a seed in the pyramid. It can be there for 5,000 years and not do anything until life uh, in the way of love in of water and air breaks the shell and it can grow. So it's the start of his whole thing is the actual interaction of life and love. The third one, the third L is laughter. Laughter without love is cruel. It's mean. It breaks up families. It causes wars. It's just really a hard thing to deal with. But laughter with love is joy and happiness. And the fourth one is labor. Labor without love is drudgery. Oh man, I gotta go to work. Too many diapers. This is just too hard. I don't, this job, and on and on. But labor with love is bliss. It's why you do what you're doing, Katie. It's why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's what our soul is calling for. A painter paints, a singer sings. It's that inner soul message that has to be listened to if we're going to really understand ourselves and what's going on in our lives. So drudgery, and when we once understand that, we work 15 times as hard as we would be working when we're dragging ourselves through what we had to do. So that's pivotal. And then there's L is listening, the fifth one. Listening without love is empty sound. A doctor can work with a patient and explain things, and if the patient isn't listening, they won't take it in. However, if the physician or the person who is giving the information and working with them doesn't understand that they have to do it with a feeling of love and working with it, it becomes empty sound. But listening with love is understanding. So once I was able to formulate these 5 L's, it gave me kind of a foundation for myself and working with others to realize what it is that we really are trying to say.
So that same person asked a follow-up question to that of, can you share a success story or an example of a patient that benefited from that holistic approach?
How many thousands do you want to hear? I'll tell you one. This friend of mine just died a couple months ago at the age of 78. But she had lived her whole life with 1/4 of one kidney. That's impossible. So she had been born and had an injury when she was 18 months old, and she lost one kidney, and the other kidney was damaged, and she lived her life with 1/4 of one kidney. So she would have something happen to her, some like we all do, a sore throat, whatever. And she'd come in to see one of us who was we were working with, physicians who worked with her, and we'd ask her what, we'd say what we would suggest for her to do, but then she would have to take it in and understand what it was that her body could do in order to take in what we were talking to her about. I mean, for me, it was the most amazing way of looking at life and healing and love, because she was the most amazing person. And she lived all those years, had a baby, and, helped the baby grow. And all of that it's amazing that she was able to live one day, but she lived her whole
So,
life. I have another woman that pain. She's had pain all her life, and she's in her late 70s. But she's an artist. She's a painter, and when her pains, and she learned this, she taught this to herself. When the pain started up and got so bad that felt she just couldn't handle it anyway, she grabs her paints and she starts painting. And she paints her shoes, and she paints her windows, and she paints the wall, and she paints, anything that's available. She paints until what she calls the ting happens, the pain ting happens. When that ting happens, the pain gets into control enough that she can deal with it.
hmm.
Now, these are people who are actually doing the work of living lives that are not only holistic, but they're living medicine. And they do it because within themselves, they know what it is that helps heal them. Now, let me just add another quick story here. My oldest son is a retired orthopedic surgeon. And when he came through Phoenix to go to Del Rio to start his orthopedic practice, he said to me, "Mom, I'm real scared. I'm going into life in my life of work, and I'm going to have people's lives in my hands." He said, I, I don't think I can handle that. And I said to him, "Well, Carl, if you think you're the one that does the healing, you have a right to be scared. But if you can understand that the things that you've been taught in orthopedics are awesome. If I've got something broken, I want a good orthoped pod who knows what he's doing to help fix it." So you use the skills and the understanding and all that you have with your profession, but as you're doing that, you understand that that patient has within them your colleague. That's the inner physician with each one of us who knows how to do it and what to do with the information that's coming to them. As he would work with a patient, the patient would take that in and apply it or not. But if they did it, that's their responsibility for their life. And here's another story, Katie, that I really like. It just happened 3 weeks or so ago. I have a wonderful friend by the name. Well, he's a neurologist here in town. I've known him for years, and I was talking to him, and he said, the other day, and he's working with Arizona Medical School at helping residents during their residencies. So he was working with a resident, and they were to meet a patient in the patient's room. So when he got up there, the resident is standing outside of the room, and she says to him, as he said, "Well, let's go in." And she says, "Oh, we don't need to." And he says, "What?" And she said, "He has Alzheimer's. He's not going to understand anything." And my neurologist friend said, "Now, wait a minute. What we have in that room is two people, a wife and a husband. That wife is going to understand everything that we say. She's going to interpret it with love and let her husband understand it as she is able to apply it and give it back to him." It's the process of love, sharing what it can with in the loving interaction. And he said, we have to go in and touch those people. So it's, learning how to work with the healing processes, the technologies, and so on that we've been blessed with is very important, that we not lose sight of what it is that it actually does the healing. These are modalities, but it's the way the patient is able to take that in, the way it's given to them in a loving manner or not, and do it for themselves.
Amazing. So I have a question based on the first example that you gave of your friend that had not much of her, was it kidney or liver?
Kidney.
Yeah. So when you said that you and your colleagues would give her what she needed to do for whatever she had going on, whether it was a sore throat or something. Would she then go home with that
Yeah,
information, connect with her physician within,
absolutely.
and that's how she would decide what it was she was going to do?
Absolutely.
Mm,
Some of the
okay.
physicians thought she was non-compliant,
Mm,
but those of us who got to know her realized it wasn't non-compliance. It was an understanding of who she was,
mm-hmm.
and her the physician within her was our colleague.
Got it. Yeah, that's so great of just educating people about that. There's a couple of questions that came in while you were speaking. Okay, so one, oh wait, yeah. Um, how can you do discipline with love? I work with young children and they are sometimes a little bit hard to handle. I know we are talking about health, but I would love to get advice from Dr. Gladys.
I just, I have 6 kids, 4 sons and 2 daughters. And it's, I just, and my youngest son is named David, and he was down here helping me with stuff. And he remembered that when he was a kid, people would say to him when he was little, "What's your name, little boy?" And he'd say, "No, David," because he was always into something and somebody was always yelling, "No, David." And I have a friend who just introduced me to a book called No, David. It's a child's book. It's a wonderful book.
Wow.
And it's the whole idea of how you can present it to a child so they understand that the no comes from a mother who loves them
Mm,
or comes from a brother who thinks that they're nuts or whatever, but they loves them anyway.
mm-hmm.
It's the interaction within families, and it's the reality that it's not what you say as how you say it.
And the
You know,
intention behind it,
right,
don't you think? Yeah.
right. You know, it's like when one of my kids got sent to the room. I forget which one it was. And when he came out, he said, "Boy, that was fun." You know, it depends on what how it's interpreted and tied into with what the person is intending as you're working with them.
Right. Right. That's great. Okay, there was another question. Hold on. Um, how do you view the relationship between mental health and physical well-being in your practice?
How I don't see that.
How do you view the relationship between mental health and physical well-being?
I don't see them as separate.
Yeah.
I mean, one runs into the other, and the other runs right back. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're really, really
And
important. It's
interwoven.
like
Yeah.
my a friend that's an artist. Her mental health was maintained because she was able to work it in a way that she was able to work with
Mm-hmm.
it.
So in your practice, I mean, you approached all of it. You took in the whole
Oh
being.
yeah,
You heard the whole story. You understood where somebody was in their life and what was at play,
right,
what was all around them.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But it's interesting. For some reason, I remember this patient that I worked with. Really, she was a good patient, and she would come in. She came in repeatedly with shoulder pain. And the same shoulder, always the same pain. We did all kinds of workup, all kinds, and tried all kinds of things. And she's still having that pain. And finally, one day she's in my office, and I'm just trying really hard to figure out something else that I'm missing. What am I missing? And finally, we're done with the visit, and she turns around and picks up her purse, and it's a really heavy purse, and she hangs it over that shoulder. And I looked at her and I said, for pity's sakes, I've been missing this all the time. You know, every time you put that purse over your shoulder, you're hurting yourself.
Right.
And she had no idea. I hadn't seen her do it. And so when I saw her do it, we laughed. I'm telling you, we laughed so hard because we had spent, I think it was years,
Wow.
with her coming in and me trying to figure out what her shoulder pain was.
Huh. Right in plain vision the whole time.
Yeah, right. And it was one of the fact of the matter is that sometimes it's just one of those simple things
Mm.
that is so obvious that it misses. We miss it.
Well,
We're looking for the
right.
complicated.
I mean, what comes up for me about that story is that she really didn't. She just needed to be with you. Like you missed it because she just needed whatever it was you were telling her
Right.
and helping her with every single time she came
Yeah.
in was exactly what she needed. It had nothing to do with her shoulder. Her shoulder was just the messenger that got her to you.
Yeah, brought her in so that we
Right.
could talk about
Right.
it.
Or everything else that you were trying to excavate to see if that could be the problem.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Life is so funny that way.
It's amazing.
Mm.
Yeah. You know,
And so are you still doing any consults over the phone with anybody?
yes, I'm calling them life consults.
Okay.
They could call the foundation and set them up. I'm just doing a few, but
Yep.
I am doing that.
And are
But you
you
know, one of the things, Katie, one of the things I'd like to talk about is how old I am. You know, because I
well, tell
really
everyone how old you are.
103.
Okay.
I love being this age, and I'm really handicapped. I can't see worth a darn, but my sight may be eh, damaged, and it really is, but my insight is better. But the thing I want to mention here is we have a president who people are questioning whether he should be president because he's going to be 80 years old. My gracious, that's all that is a wonderful life of service and understanding and living through all kinds of pain and suffering and so on. It's a he brings to the whole process a whole life of understanding and work. And, you know, I went to Afghanistan when I was 86 because the women in Afghanistan were having the highest mortality rate in birthing. And we couldn't find the future generations who was working with it couldn't find out because the men wouldn't let the uh, people who were investigating this talk to the women. So I was ready to retire from my practice, and I went. My brother was ahead of future generations, and he asked me to come to Afghanistan and see if I could do that. And I went, and it was wonderful. We lived for well, 36 women came to the workshop. We lived in this one big room and ate together and understood each other. And the women were able to tell about their births and what happened. And when they went back home, uh, these 36 women transformed the whole birthing process in Afghanistan so that by 6 months later, it was like normal, like other countries. And it was because they were able to take it in and go, and they listened and they used what they, and we, women are great. When we learn something, we teach it. I mean, if we really learn something, we want to teach you. We want other people to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's happened to the women in Afghanistan. And I was 86 years old. I rode a donkey up to the where they had a water bubbling up out of the. I mean,
I
it can
don't
be
think I
done.
realized that you were 86 when you did that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah, that's
well, I
that's
don't. I
amazing.
It's not something I talk about. It just was.
Right,
You know,
right.
I had grad, I had stopped my practice, and I had the opportunity to do this, and it was a lovely opportunity. These were wonderful women,
Yeah.
but the living with them, it wasn't a Hilton. We had an
No,
outdoor
I'm
toy,
sure.
the out. Well, I won't even go into that, but anyway.
It's, and as you and I talked about earlier, I, th- I think, I feel like age just shouldn't, it has nothing to do with chronological lineal
Right.
age because, your 86 is relatable to somebody else's, being 60. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everybody has such a different um, level of health and well-being at all the different ages of their
Right.
life. And
As a matter of fact, Katie, yesterday I heard, I don't know what the TV show was, there was a discussion of a group of people who were turning 30 about their age. And I'm thinking, you babies, you.
like, yeah, it's just, I mean, you just have such a great perspective on it all now. And I think who you are and how you show up in the world and how you continue to just live your life and share your wisdom is just
Isn't it fun,
it's
Katie? Isn't
yes,
it
and it's
fun?
just such an inspiration because I look at it now, I'm 61, and I look at you're 103, I'm like, I have a lifetime ahead of me, like a
Yeah,
lifetime ahead of me,
you
like
lucky girl.
I know. And what am I going to do with this beautiful lifetime ahead of me?
Yeah,
You know, it's not over. I mean, it's so interesting, that perspective shift on age. And so, yeah, when you think about the president who's 80 and everybody's all up in arms because of just the
yeah,
number of that he's 80, maybe they're also looking at other factors. Like I was saying, maybe it would be so good if we could do a full health and wellness check on anybody who wants to run the country.
yeah.
But, whether that would do any good or not, I don't know. I
No,
don't
but
know.
but
Gladys for
you know,
president.
by their fruits, by their fruits ye shall know them. And
Right,
the things that he's doing are just so helpful. So
right.
anyway, that's my comment for today.
Well, and the other thing that I liked what you said is that because when you brought up the idea that you wanted to talk about, President Biden, I was like, oh, I don't know. That's, politics can get pretty dicey with people. And, your comment was, well, I don't care. I have the right to say what I want to say. And you know what? You're absolutely right. You do. So it doesn't matter what anybody thinks or what anybody says. It's your opinion. and you have the right to have it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it
No,
takes a lot to get to that place, because I think so many of us are afraid of what other people are going to say, or we want to be liked, we want, all the things. And, you're at a place where you're like, I don't care anymore.
well, Katie, I was 93 before I found my voice. I was doing the talking that by finding my voice, I mean, I began to really trust it and
Mm,
didn't have to have it checked to make sure it was the right thing.
mm,
Because, it was something that I had learned as a child. I was dyslexia and stuff, the damage there. And it just is something that life is so amazing. There's so much that uh, there's so much light in this world that we can look for and look into, and really it always outshines the
mm,
darkness. Life always does. And if we're always looking over our shoulder at what's happened to us or what's hurting us or whatever, we're going to get a stiff neck and we're going to have a hard time. But if we can let our head move and look for the light at different places and help other people, if I'm walking down the street, a dark path with a flashlight in my hand, and I think my flashlight's pretty good, and as I'm walking down, I see a flicker of a light over one side or the other, and I add my flashlight light to that. It just opens up the whole area.
mm-hmm,
It's that kind of a reaching out to other people with love and light that allows life to go
mm,
on. And look what you find. Look what you see. It's something that is just really there, but we don't see it if we don't see it,
right,
and we don't see it if we're not
right,
looking for it.
right. Oh, so good. So good. Well, I think with that, we shall sign off until next week.
All right.
Um, unless there's one last bit of wisdom and insight that you have to share.
Well, just uh, understand that love is the great
Mm,
healer. I mean, if we keep that deep in our hearts, we'll be okay.
I will take that in, and I hope everybody else does too. All
Yep.
right, Gladys, I love you and thank you for being here. Everybody is just thank you for your questions and being here with us. We so appreciate the community that listens in every week. And if you don't catch us live, I know that you're listening to it afterwards, and we just really appreciate it. And we love being here for
And
you. So,
isn't it fun?
yeah. Yeah, that's the best part. So, with that, we will say goodbye. And Nora, who is our helper today, getting Dr. Gladys on, do you need me to help you sign off, or did John tell you how to do that?
I think we may be good.
Okay.
But yeah, you know what? Go ahead and guide me through because
Okay,
I
so I'll call you from my other phone. I'm going to sign
perfect.
off,
Okay,
and then I'll call you and tell you how to save it.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay, bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye. Bye.